All right, folks, we're gonna take a minute here and talk about crankbait profiles and understanding when to select what style and why and how it relates to a fish's activity level. There's many styles, guys, but there's basic fat crank, shad shape, thin, and lipless. That's your basic model right there. You're gonna have those 4 profiles. Now, within those, there'll be some different hybrids within those. But what you need to know is what that bait, how it puts vibration off, and how that affects the fish. The profile, the actual size of it, what that means to the fish. In an aggressive situation, you want a bait that has a lot of thump to it, a real wide shake. You want a real big body to it so that they're gonna get a big meal when they eat it. As they become inactive, neutral to inactive, you'll wanna go thinner profile baits, and then you'll wanna go baits that don't have a lip at all, like a lipless. Just a little tiny bit of rattle, okay, and a little bit of shake. Fish in nature, guys, the thing to remember, fish in nature, when they swim, they don't move a lot of water. These big crankbaits, they're pushing a lot of water. They're getting a lot of attention, but that's not natural. That's the thing you always got to keep in the back of your head, is that is not natural. A fish doesn't kick through the water and boom, boom, boom as it kicks its tail. It's very subtle. So understanding that and how these profiles go in, that's going to help you catch more fish. So the first one we're going to look at is this the traditional style, and this one just happens to be jointed, but this is the traditional profile crankbait. As you can see, it's real thick this direction, it's real thick this direction, it's got a big old bill on it, and it's a wide bill. What that means to you from the profile of what this thing is going to do, this would be like a Colorado bladed spinnerbait, if you will. This big bill diving in, being as wide as it is causing it to make a really wide wobble and pull like a truck, making a wide wobble, pushing a lot of water. This bulbous body on here at the same time is also kicking a lot of water. The other thing is that this one's jointed, which is going to magnify it even more. It's moving even more water. So the wobble is extremely wide. Now, when you would use something like this is if you had muddy conditions, low light conditions, the fish couldn't see well, you're trying to get them to feel that vibration of that water movement in their lateral line. At the same time, you've got rattles in there and they're hearing that through their inner ear, okay? So what happens here is you're moving tons of water. So when fish are active, they're gonna strike at this bait, no problem. But what happens when they become inactive, and why do they become inactive? Well, once they've fed, guys, they got a belly full. They're not super excited about it. Just like when we eat a bunch and we're full, we can't think about eating a bunch more, but maybe we'll snack. So what happens is this big push of water, all this vibration, this big profile, they don't want to eat that again, they just ate it. So what happens, the next step that happens would be the jerk shad profile. As you can see, now we're getting longer and skinnier. We still have a little bit of girth here. We still have some rattles in here, like so. And if you look at the lip on this bait, the lip is narrower. The narrower the lip gets and the thinner this profile body gets, the tighter the shake gets, okay? The tighter the swim gets. The less active a fish is, the less thickness it wants and the less wobble it wants. So the shad shapes right here, still a reward for their effort to consume this, but it's going to be easier to swallow now because it's thinner. It's got a tighter wobble to it, so it's not going to drive the fish away. Shad shape right here. Now, the next step down from there is a flat, thin profile. Now we've taken this big belly section out of here. Now we've got a more realistic, just minnow approach, real thin. Thin this direction here, it's not big and girthy. It's not big and girthy this way. The bill on this one's getting even narrower yet, which is really going to tighten the wobble up. So if we switch from that big crankbait they were biting at like crazy, we went down to that shad profile, jerk shad profile, we caught a couple and they quit biting. The next step you could go to would be this profile right here. Now, in cold conditions, it's the first of spring or it's in the fall time, water temperatures for the bass are getting down, below 40s. It's starting to get cold. They're still having to feed in order to stock up for the winter or to feed coming out of spring, but they don't want all that shake. They want a smaller profile. That's where your lipless baits come in. The lipless crankbait, as you can see, has no lip, but it does. This right here is the lip. It's built into the bait, but see how narrow it is? Creates a really tight shake. Now we've got some BBs in there, but they're not the big knocker style that these are. It's a lot quieter. So what happens with this guy is you cast it out, it gets down, you're wanting to tip it through the weeds, you're wanting to bounce it off some rocks. It's a nice tight wobble. It's a nice small profile, which is easy for them to consume. They're gonna wanna take this bait when they're neutral to inactive in the summer months or in the cold water months, right there, lipless crankbait. So you can see the drastic change from there to there. I see people out there in the spring when the conditions are bad, hucking these big crankbaits here, and they just will not produce for you as well as a lipless style. So keep that in mind, guys. When they've just fed, you come off a hard bite, I always hear, man, they were biting like crazy and they quit. Well, we as people, we don't eat all day long. I know I look like I do, but I don't, I promise you. But they don't eat all day long, guys. They eat in periods. So what we have to do in between those periods of eating breakfast, we got to feed them a snack. Okay, something that's thinner, easier to swallow, not as much water movement, forcing them to eat. So always keep that in mind, guys. Know those profiles, know when to use them, you'll catch a lot more fish.